Good morning. This is 11:09 a.m. June 6th. June 17th, 2017, and this is the Bring Your Own Identity meeting. And we just went through a successful login into uPort, where I'm sorry. I can't see the number. Hello. Hey, Greg, I'm in the meeting. Can I call you back? Oh, wait. Sorry about that. Rarely calls, and I thought it would be urgent. Essentially, you just sign on, and by scanning your phone, and it comes up with your credentials. It's really very nice. It looks like we don't have anyone from our chain here today. Well, of course, we have Kit, who's from our chain. We don't have Glenn or Ed this week.
Chloe will be joining in a few minutes.
Okay, so do we have check-ins? On identity, besides myself. Glenn and I attended the what happened to my thing here? Oh, jeez. Too many tabs open. Attended the Sovereign Agent working group meeting on Thursday. They meet every 2 weeks. And I was a little disappointed that they didn't have integrated the OpenID, or, it seemed like, all they had was libraries for different languages to access the API. And so it looked like integrating it would be fairly intricate. But I've also been dealing with Big Life and Adrian Gruber, who is one of the movers and shakers in the identity community in the IIW. And he has developed his own system. He says using glue or ForgeRock is way too hard.
Gee, how about that?
But he's developed his own code base that he uses for his health application, which is pretty awesome.
So, I mean, is it required? I mean, if we were to, essentially create a simple uPort identity as an Ethereum address, right? Which is the simplest form, correct?
Well, it's not uPort. An address isn't. A uPort may be a collection of Ethereum addresses.
Yeah, well, I mean, the simplest, let's say the simplest iteration of a uPort identity is an Ethereum address, right?
Correct.
Okay, so and that is all that Ethereum requires. I mean, all you need to have an Ethereum address is an email address, right? I mean, that's, that you've established,
You don't need an email address, no.
you don't.
No.
But I mean, define an Ethereum address.
You create an address in your wallet. You can create as many of them as you want. And they belong to you. You hold the private key.
Okay, all right. So, and what that enables you to do is essentially access the Solidity contract and create a token, right?
Well, yeah. Creating a token is one of 1,000 contracts you can run.
Okay. Once you have the address and the wallet.
And you put in some ETH so you can run.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Right. Oh, okay. So I mean, that's not something that should be very difficult to do with uPort, right? I mean, to create a connection there.
Right. And you know, you can see that it's that in uPort, it's it's one line of code to log somebody in, basically. Okay, this is the JavaScript over here, and when I and it runs this connect, okay, and I scan it with my phone. I hit send. Okay.
You know, what I'm
it logs me into the system, and there you can see it got my picture.
Okay.
And it got my name.
This is what you've just demonstrated is a login using uPort and an Ethereum address.
Yeah, there's a wallet address on my phone, which is stored in uPort. They don't yet support the multiple addresses or multiple identities, multiple persona in this wallet. But uPort data structure supports the multiple identities and structures.
But I mean, the identity factor here is the Ethereum address. Is that correct?
Yeah, essentially the private key on your phone.
Okay. All right. So I mean, you have a device factor. You have a private key. What else do you have in the way of identity factors here?
Well, normally, I mean, this is essentially an alpha. Normally, you would have a knowledge factor. You would have to put in a PIN.
Okay.
Now this, I mean, the way I see this anyway is that with your self-sovereign identity, okay, essentially using the sovereign network, I guess we don't have to bring that into it yet, but essentially, this uPort ID is just one DID that you have, or distributed identity. Another one would be your open ID, which would be what you would use to log into most systems. Essentially, open ID would redirect to your sovereign ID authentication structure, which is, I choose to use uPort, okay, as one of my factors.
Why would you have to click on that?
Okay, and so it goes to my sovereign server, logs me in, and passes an OAuth 2 token back to the application that verifies that I am the person who owns that owns that distributed identity.
Okay, so that's what would happen like with a Facebook OpenID, in other words, tying to a Facebook OpenID login.
Facebook doesn't, chooses for you the authentication. Facebook is not a sovereign identity.
So the reason I talk about Facebook is because if we can tie an identity solution that it essentially creates a more robust identity tied to a Facebook login, or Facebook is an OpenID login, right?
Facebook is an OpenID provider.
Provider, yeah, okay.
Okay, so they give you an OpenID. Okay, I think WordPress gives you an OpenID. Google used to, or sort of does.
Yeah.
So you have a lot of OpenIDs.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Okay. What we're trying to do is create a self-sovereign identity. Username at divvydow.net is our first iteration of that. Okay, that's a DID : email : username at divvydow.net. One of your identities.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and we would want to record that on the blockchain if we want to be able to associate that uPort account with your Divi account.
Okay, so here's kind of where I'm going with, my logic here, and that is we need to start using a simple iteration of what it is that's buildable upon, but a simple iteration of what we're trying to build, and start using it in a development environment. In other words, a login for, and what I'm thinking is...
Well, here's what we have. Okay, this code from Adrian Grouper, okay, has a login here, which has the login with uPort, MD Nosh, which I guess is a healthcare thing, Google, and I think it's a multi-factor authentication that's independent of any of these. So this is like, use whatever identity you want to log in here.
Is this supposed to be like a HIPAA compliant login?
Yeah.
Okay.
It looks like I've got something here.
Hey, Plant Eater, do you want to introduce our new arrivals here? I don't know whether Jim noticed.
No, I did.
Okay.
Hello, I'm Chloe.
Hey, Matt.
Hi, Chloe and Matt. I'm Kendall.
Nice to meet you. Sorry we're late.
No, not a problem. And that's Kit.
Hi.
He just got back from Crete, where he was hanging out with the octopi.
So Chloe and Matt are very interested in the learning stuff. So anything with Divi University or the noob classes or helping out here. So yeah, they're eager to learn. They're at your disposal, Jim.
That's awesome. Awesome. I found this software that does a lot of the things that we want to do. I don't really know how mature it is, but it provides self-sovereign identity for people, and it's for a healthcare application. So, we can repurpose it for exactly what Kendall was asking for. Okay, what I need is some people willing to learn some basic system administration tasks, and they need to learn the basic commands to use in Git to participate in an open source development effort. Even if they're not doing programming, they may be doing documentation, or they may be doing, there's a lot of related activities to getting something adopted into a community. So there's many different kinds of skills that are needed. Right now,
Jim, do you want to explain a little bit about the environment that you want to, do this teaching basically, or kind of participatory, upgrading of skill sets and so forth is what we call DivvyU, or Divi University, and it's this is a learning environment that we're in Divi, where we're tying to projects, and I don't know, I guess you would put it in the agile development realm, right, Jim?
Yes.
Where, the thing is, we're developing stuff that's never been developed before. So, what we have to do is sort of take our mentoring resources like Jim, who has this, long and very, very broad skill sets, and bring folks like yourself together with him, to create this new, whatever technology we have to create in order to basically get the job done, right, Jim?
Yeah, it's like all these things are new, so nobody knows it. You're not really, there's some basic things you need to know, like how to copy and paste commands into the command line, and look for the word error in the output, and Google the error.
He's talking about people like me.
Yeah, well, you certainly could do this. I mean, you underrate your technical skills a lot, I think, and most people don't realize how technical they've become. I mean, the kids today are more technical than me in many ways. So people are afraid of system administration tasks for good reason, because you sort of have a lot of power to screw things up, but if you're installing something for people to use and it doesn't work, well, it didn't work before you tried to install it either. So it just requires a little care and some basic rules so that you don't delete all the files on the system. And that has nothing to do with technical knowledge. It has to do with how your mind works. And I'm not a good system administrator, but I have the skills. I know how to do the commands, and I know how to troubleshoot. And, certainly with the Linux command line, I've had 50 years of experience or whatever since Unix was invented practically. But it's changed too, so I've forgotten a lot of things. So,
do you want to tell us a little bit about what you're hoping to gain from this association, Matt, Chloe?
I never really got into any computer science courses in college or anything, but I probably should have, and I'm trying to get more more experience with it and more, I don't know, give myself an excuse to teach myself some things. But my background was more in philosophical logic, and I always thought I had no excuse to not pursue more programming or something along those lines.
So, philosophical logic. What? Tell me more about what that is.
Well, I didn't go as deep as I would like, but when I was in college, that was sort of what finally sang to me, and I felt like this is what I was meant to be doing. These truth functional connectives that sort of make sense.
Is this a kind of a formal approach or a mathematical approach to philosophy, or
right? It's sort of the mathematical system that makes philosophy a little more of a science, and
so, in other words, to the extent that philosophy has a logic to it, right? It should be able to be formalized to some extent, right?
Right.
Okay, so that's very exciting. Are you familiar? I mean, you're familiar with smart contracts as the essentially the drivers of, or they underpin these cryptocurrencies. Are you familiar with?
Not really, no.
Not really.
Okay. That's what they're here to learn.
Yeah.
Okay.
They know a little bit about Ethereum and about the whole blockchain world, and they want to learn more about blockchain technology.
Well, I mean, where I was kind of going with that is, in other words, the skill set that you have, I think, relates to what smart contracts that we are using in creating our cryptocurrencies, and also social contracts, which is something that is very important for our chain. Okay, so and they, I think they both deal with formalisms, basically taking a a process of logic that can be essentially underpinned by philosophy, right? In other words, governing principles.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
We have principles applied to technology, maybe an area that you find compelling or interesting. I mean, there's practical stuff like, how do you take a legal contract and make a
a formalized document that does more, that actually, can make things happen on its own, right, Jim?
Yeah, I mean, how do you translate that to a formality in the first place, which can be Rolang for the Archain, and well, whatever. But so essentially, what I guess you guys want to do or need to do, whatever, is participate in the work session where we're actually doing some work. What equipment do you have available? Windows, Macintosh?
Windows?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm running Windows 7.
In a lot of our sessions, we're helping each other run stuff on our own machines or on cloud machines. So, the basics of and rather than us each having to go through a struggle independently trying to install something, we help each other so that we don't have to all make the same mistakes and find this, we can share our knowledge, so to speak. But if we want to get started, I can, we can begin working at some point. Just want to finish any non-tech parts of the meeting before we do that. We don't have that much time. We can start a little bit anyway. But one of the first things you're going to have to do is go to github.com and get yourself a GitHub account. And then you're going to want to install Git on your machine. And then what you install next will depend on specifically what we're doing. But the way that we collaborate is using Git. And it's not always GitHub, but there's a lot of projects on GitHub. So it's good to be on GitHub. It's a good introduction to Git. It's pretty simple. And we're planning to use GitLab ourselves, which is something we run ourselves, so that we're not exposing everybody to tracking through GitHub. They're using our own service that we're running. Okay, this is part of the what we want, but
well, Jim, I mean that's so that we can do a project that is not in the public view, basically, right?
Oh, we can make it public. Most of our projects will be open source and public.
Yeah.
Okay. But the people that come to them aren't going to be tracked by GitHub. Okay?
Oh, you're saying like a VPN.
It's not a VPN. They're just they're not going to github.com, which is tracking everybody who comes through there.
Oh, okay.
They're going to divvydow.net. Okay.
Got it.
And divvydow.net could be tracking and selling their information too. But hopefully they trust we don't do that.
Well, we won't tell anybody. Sorry, Jim. Go ahead.
Let me go back to the agenda. Kate, do you have anything to report? Are you still there?
Yeah, nothing exceptionally new. During my vacation, I interacted with people who are living in a time capsule, and it gave me the feeling that we have a long way to go. They do have email, they do have computers, but they've never heard of Bitcoin, and they see Facebook as the internet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think that this is something that a lot of people in the development, the IT development domain sort of, lose sight of. And it's one of the things that I think, as far as Divi is concerned, is one of the goals of the Divi DAO is to create a platform to onboard people like that, and create a safe and secure cyber a place in cyberspace where people who don't have a lot of high technical skills can nevertheless access the cyber environment in a very practical and robust manner.
They're happy with Facebook, Kendall.
I'm sorry?
They're happy with Facebook.
Well, I know. That's why we want to tie identity to their Facebook account. So,
well, I would say they're happy with Facebook, but it's also like a teenager who has only had a few kinds of beers, and then when they actually start tasting craft beer from microbreweries, then they realize there's a whole world out there.
Yeah. Well, there are people at all different levels, I mean.
Yeah. But certainly, onboarding non-technical people is the greatest challenge of any sort of technological platform, and that's what Facebook has figured out, right? So we can learn from that, and going back to what you said earlier, where Facebook is an open ID provider, then we can use that to our advantage.
Well, and Facebook really then is kind of like their dashboard. A lot of people's dashboard, basically.
Yeah, and the thing is we're providing alternatives, and ultimately people do care about whether they're being tracked and who's using their information for purposes that are not in their interest. It's just easier for them to sort of ignore the problem.
This is the whole entropy question, right? I mean, as things become more and more and more complex, we go down a road that's really is very difficult to kind of reverse, yeah, there's a lot of problems in this world, and I mean, do you solve the entropy problem by having a huge crash or blow up, or do you kind of manage the entropy problem and bring people along so that they can manage the complexity, right?
I put in the link to the notes if anybody can add any notes. What we do generally depends on who shows up in a work study and what they want to cover. Okay, I basically covered briefly that the sovereign agents, which sovereign.org is are the self-sovereign identity folks. Oops, I forgot the HTTP, but it's And you know, we're sort of, you know, they that grew out of the Internet Identity Workshop, which has developed the standards in OpenID and OAuth 2 and UMA, and all these things, I guess, are new to you. In a sociocratic style, we determine, you know, what we're going to work on and what product we're going to deliver. Okay, what we're overall here, we're working on open identity. I'm suggesting that we take this work done by Adrian Grouper on his healthcare application, where he's incorporated he's incorporated the uPort social logins. You know, I'll just show you that again.
Is there a link to that, Jim?
It's right in the notes. The first link today is his login. Okay. Which I'll show again. Okay, we can see that it has the interface to, it doesn't have an interface to Facebook. That's probably on purpose because I know the people that did this hate Facebook. But they did put in a Google login. And there's widgets basically available for all of these logins. Okay, and there's many places that, you know, aggregate the information. So if I log in with Google, it's going to verify my Google. At this point, select that account. And everything is done according to HIPAA rules here. And I can see that we have conditions, we have medications, we have supplements, we have all the health information here, which is all put under the user's individual control about who can access what. This is a good model of what we're trying to create. So what we have here is a GitHub repository. And the GitHub repository has an installation instructions. So we could choose to install this. Any other ideas for activities? That, you know, what is your reaction or feeling about doing this? Oops.
Well, this is an instance, right?
Right. This is a. I think this is a one-person a one-person self-sovereign identity.
I like it. And especially because it relates, you know, I mean, we can tie it to, you know, personal health record, right?
Right.
Yeah. No, I think that's huge.
Okay, so I'm going to go through the process. Well, wait a second. Any other thoughts on whether we should install this or not, or do something else?
So what you're looking for is essentially you're making a motion, right? That do we go with this and right and yeah, I love it. I think it's great. Gives
So,
us
what are your names again? I'm terrible.
Matt and Chloe.
Yes.
Matt and Chloe. Okay. Let me get that in the notes. Matt and Chloe.
Mm-hmm.
So Matt and Chloe, what are your thoughts about going through an exercise of installing this? Does it seem like something that you would be interested in doing, or?
Yeah, I'm interested in learning and doing anything.
Okay, but don't be quiet. You have to ask questions or you won't get any benefit from it. Do you have any questions right now about it?
I don't know. Maybe can you just briefly summarize and explain again what it is?
That's what I was going to say. Well,
okay.
I mean, it's really kind of a learning by doing kind of thing, right, Jim?
Right. Okay. This is, well, let me go back. Okay. Are you clear on what an identity provider is in terms of it lets you log in, it keeps, you know, it's trusted with information about you. Okay. A self-sovereign identity is one that you control, which is not what you have at Facebook or other places.
Yeah.
Okay, and this is, and what we have here is we have a software that's been developed in the spirit of what we're trying to do, bring your own identity, the uPort. Now, it's not complete. You can bring in Google, you can bring in other identities into this to take, in essence, take control of your healthcare information under the government regulations. Okay. The healthcare provider is under some very strict rules about how it can use your information. By you being in charge of your own healthcare information, they don't have any liability anymore. You've explicitly given them permission for everything they do with it. Okay, so there's, you know,
I mean, it has huge economic impacts. You know, in other words, if the risk is shifted away from the enterprise, their insurance premiums go down.
Yeah.
And that could mean, you know, hundreds of billions of dollars in, you know, in deferred liabilities.
Right. And so Adrian Grouper has developed this with his company, and they have software, and the software is on GitHub. and this is the GitHub repository where it is. And he said, ask permission, and we'll add you to the team to develop this. Okay, but we don't need permission because it's public. We can just use it. Okay, and we can change our own copy of it. We can make a branch of this code using Git, which is very powerful. It's a decentralized collective source code editing environment that was developed by Linux for the development of Linux, and it's what has made Linux so successful. Is Git, completely decentralizing the process of joint editing of a huge project like Linux or like Identity. So there's, in this, this is a repository just has folders and files like normal, and most every repository has a file called README, and this is in Markdown format, readme.markdown.md, and that's Markdown is just simply where you and I don't know. I want to look at raw. So if I can show you the access list, and I think if I type raw here, RAW, I hope that works. Oh, no, didn't work. Unfortunately, I don't know GitHub that well either. I've used many source code control systems over the years, and I'm fairly new to GitHub. But there's a lot of really cool stuff here. But the Markdown is just a way. It's like a wiki way of typing. Where you put a £sign before a title, or 2 £signs before a second title. I don't know if you've seen that, but we can show you that later. Okay, and the README file tells you how to use the files. Okay, and this gives us a bunch of commands to type. 3 commands to type, which will be typed at the Unix command line. So we're going to copy and paste these into our shell in order to do that, but we want to make sure we know what we're doing first. It doesn't tell us what kind of system or anything to do. And it says we have some dependencies here: PHP, MySQL, Apache, curl. We might have to install those. That would be, it's a little bit of a pain, but not too hard. Okay, and then we have the features. Okay, and tells us some of the stuff. I mean, this is it teaches you a little bit about the web finger protocol and how that's used. It's very educational.
This is the user story for this application.
This is the user story. Oh, is it?
Well, it sure looks like a user story to me.
Well, I guess when they're talking about client here, they're not talking about a person.
Oh, you mean they're talking about the device?
Yeah, or the machine, whatever. I mean, you certainly could do these commands from the command line. But, it's not the user experience. Okay, this is using the software or integrating the software.
Got it. So, I mean, this is more of a, like a proxy user, you might say.
Yeah, I mean, it shows things here that we may want to test. But initially, we're learning. So we're going to just install it. And I don't know, to be safe, I'm not going to install it on a machine that it might break. I want to be safe. Okay, and so I'm going to go to DigitalOcean, and that's a provider that gives web services.
This,
Now, if you wanted to do this for free, you could probably use Heroku, but I'm not that familiar with it.
but this is our, I mean, this is where the same DigitalOcean account that we're hosting Divi on, right? DiviDAO.org, right?
Correct. Okay,
Yeah.
we have two hosts here. We have myDiviDAO.net, which is the Cloudtron, which has the Mattermost and a lot of other tools on it. I don't know if you've seen Mattermost. It's really cool. But you can basically install applications on myDiviDAO.net as easy as installing applications on your cell phone.
So we're going to create a droplet here of this this app, identity app.
Right, and so we're going to create a droplet, and we choose Ubuntu because that's the easiest to use. And when something goes wrong, very often it tells you how to fix it, which is nice. I don't know what size we're going to use. Let's try a $10 a month server. $5 a month probably would be good enough, but it might be a little slow. And I have people here. I want I don't want it to be slow. And I create the droplet. Oh, didn't I give the droplet name? Okay, it has this name. It's still creating it. I need to wait till it's finished.
So are we actually uploading to this right now, or are we just creating a folder essentially?
Yeah. So what are we going to call this machine? Let's call it. What was the? Let's see. I'm just going to call it.
I mean, we can change it anytime we want to, right?
Health ID.
What? Health ID.
ID.
Health. Okay. Yeah. Let's do that. Health ID.
Now we might want to change it from being health to being something else, but we can call it that. Okay, so we'll call it Health ID, and then I go to my email, and I see here that I have a password for this machine. I have an IP address for the machine. Okay, the IP address is the way we address it before we give it a name. Well, we have given it a name. We haven't set up the name services like .com, whatever. We could call it healthid.dividao.org or something. But we're not going to bother now. We're just going to copy the IP address. Questions?
Well, the machine address, I mean, these two addresses are, I mean, these we don't want to show in any public place, do we?
It's going to force me to change the password when I log in anyway. So yeah, no, the IP address is not secret.
Okay. Yeah. Right. Right. But the machine address.
That is the machine address.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
What do we call it? Health ID. And I mean, so I put in the IP address instead of the host name because it doesn't have a host name yet, but I call it Health ID. And I save it in my list of machines so I don't forget where it is. And this is using PuTTY on Windows. So installing PuTTY as well is the next thing after getting a GitHub account. PuTTY allows you to, you may not have to use it much, but it allows you to log into any remote machine using a secure shell to type commands on that machine. So I open it, and the first time I connect, it says, I've never seen this machine's key before. Is this really the right machine, or is somebody trying to spoof being this machine? And I say, well, nobody even knew this machine existed before now, so I'm going to accept it. But if I connect tomorrow and I get that message again, then I know that it's not the same machine. Okay, so I'm going to log in as root, which is the super user on Linux systems. And I'm going to copy my password here. And paste it in. In PuTTY, a right click pastes. Okay, so it wants my current password, so I right click and paste it in. And now it wants the new password. And I'll just, I won't record what that is on the tape, on the, password is too simple. Okay, so I'm in, I reset the password, I write that down somewhere. Although you can, at DigitalOcean, you can get a password reset, which is good. But it also is a little bit troublesome in that somebody else could get the password to this machine, which is not good. But if you would need to recover it, it's good that you can. Okay, so we go back. We now have a place to run this that's brand new. And we can take this first line and copy it and paste it in here.
So we're using PuTTY in Ubuntu.
Right, we're using a PuTTY terminal, terminal into Ubuntu. Okay. Oh, it's a. Well, we don't need sudos because we're already root. That's it. So. It's just that what the first thing did was a curl command, which simply got this install.sh script. So basically, it created a file in this directory install.sh, and then we did a change mod plus X install.h, which made the program executable, made it an executable file so that we can execute it, which we didn't really need to do because we're using the bash command here anyway to execute the file. But we didn't need to because it's executable. Bash is the command shell. That's what we're running. Is this one UMA or two OIDC only? Okay, so UMA is user managed authorizations. And this is really the power that we're trying to create here is user managed authorizations. OIDC is Open ID. I forget what the C stands for. OID, it's Open ID. So are we using this only for Open ID or are we using it for user managed authorizations? And we're using it for both, so we hit one.
Mm-hmm. Hey, Jim, just a quick question. How often are we going to be doing this procedure?
We don't know. You know, anybody who wants to be their own identity provider is going to have to do it.
Okay, so what I was just thinking is that we really, you know, we at some point, and I'm willing to take part in that, we should go through this procedure step by step and create a, you know, essentially a procedure document that is a, you know, a guide to doing this process.
Right.
And because it's also a process that we're going to have to automate, I believe. Right.
It's you know, it's sort of like a stepwise process. You develop the steps as you know, if you look in the look at the ARC chain working group here, you can see that you know, we've refined the 17 steps of installing a rosette thing, and then we updated the instructions. But we went through this several times before we could complete this list.
So we're talking about the same kind of thing.
We're right, and the idea is that we don't have, you know, like you said, we should do this. We should take the instructions. We should do that. There's nobody to do it. There's only us to do it. And the idea is
that's why I'm taking responsibility, Jim.
Well, you know, it's not one person doing. It's a matter of Chloe, Matt, Kit, Plan Eater, Ken, and Jim all contributing to the steps that do this, and to make sure they're self-evident. We have to test them with real users trying to install this, okay? Get the instructions right and see getting people to make them clear. And, you know, I think that, you know, the process over here has resulted in very clear instructions on how to do the process. And so what we did was what I did, if I can find it,
I mean, one way to do this, I guess, would be to, you know, create a document and then copy and paste every link for every window that, you know.
We try not to have a million documents all over the place. We work in the log. Okay. We all work collaboratively on the log. So that everybody can add notes, questions, things to the log. Then when we have something that is worth putting in a document, we do, rather than having 1,000 documents all over the place that nobody looks at.
Okay, sure, got it.
But Kendall, if you, one of the things I don't think you noticed because he showed it too fast, but what they did was, and I actually watched the video where they created this. He was working with a brand new user, and the user was asking questions along the way to get clarification. And so Jim was putting in the commands, actual commands, and then the person who was learning it was annotating it as they went along, asking, okay, what does this mean? What does that mean? What does this step do? What does that step do? So all the stuff read is what a brand new user created to explain the process to help other people who were brand new to it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think Chloe and Matt could help create those kinds of documents.
Right.
I think it would be really
So then after the meeting, somebody has to go in and take the repository where the Rosette VM is and put in the instructions that we generated. Okay, this is where the instructions go in the readme.md.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, in GitHub here, I mean, I can go in and edit the document directly. And this will show you the markdown. And I can, I can edit this right here. But that's not what I did. Or is it what I did? But normally, from the command line on your own machine, you commit gets to the repository to make the changes. First, everybody has their own repository for the source code, and they make changes in their own copy of it. And then they push that back to the master repository.
Actually, Jim, let me break in here because we're going kind of deep on the technical level, and Matt and Chloe said they're not particularly technical, and I'm in between. I've worked with software developers for many years, but I don't do any programming. I don't do any command line if I can avoid it. I hate installing stuff on my computer.
Well, you can go away. Okay. Take Doug Rushkoff's mandate: program or be programmed. If you can't run this stuff yourself, you're not empowered. You have to be able to run stuff yourself.
Yes.
And our job is to make it easy for people to run stuff themselves, and eventually make it one button. So you go to you only have to hit one button to do it, and then you'll be happy. Well, that's not the world we have today. The world we have today is there's a million great projects out there, great tools, and they're all hard to use. Okay, their interfaces are not self-evident. They're they don't tell you. You don't. I mean, we're starting off blind here. We know nothing. Okay, we're saying we want to run this thing. We don't know how to run it. We don't know what the problems are going to be. Okay, but we want to leave breadcrumbs for those who follow. And maybe it'll be easy. Maybe, boom, we'll have it running in 10 seconds. But that looks like it's not going to happen. It looks like we have a lot of dependencies, and there's a lot to do. This is not going to be, I had no idea before I started, but already I've seen that it expects a lot of stuff to be set up that isn't set up, and this is going to be a harder process. But at least we've shown the process up to the point where it might have been the last step. We run set up and we're done. That would be it.
Well, let me ask you this, Jim. I think an analogy is what we want to create something like the automobile we have today, which is, you walk out to your driveway, you get in, you put the key in the ignition and turn it.
Yeah.
And it starts up, and you back out of your driveway and drive 50 miles and park, and you never had to know anything about the solenoid or the what engaged the starter, or the pump that was injecting fuel to the cylinders and all of that stuff, right? So
yeah, anything, I mean, that's an example, okay, where I would not, I did all my own car maintenance up to a certain time after I failed 3 or 4 times changing a timing chain on a Datsun. But, so I don't need to know that. Okay, but
yeah,
clicking on a command line is not rocket science. It's I don't have to go to school to learn how to, how to copy and paste a line of.
okay. Well, I want to learn how to do that. I mean, yeah, I know how to paste something into the command line, but
Right, and then and the thing is, we can help each other. We don't all have to be experts, because there aren't any experts out there. You want to find a guy. There's one guy that knows how to use this program, probably Michael, the programmer. He's the only guy, and we're probably going to have to ask him before we can ever get this to run. We're probably going to have to ask him for help. I mean, it could have run out of the box, and I'm seeing now that there are steps, and I was sharing my screen, wasn't I, when I was doing this?
no, yeah, you were,
Okay.
yeah.
So what's your feelings about what we've been going over so far? Chloe and Matt?
Feelings? I don't know. I'm just interested. It's all new, and yeah, it's very interesting.
It concerns me when people aren't asking questions, because I feel like I'm wasting my time if they're not asking questions.
So the what is it? User controlled identity, is that the term you're?
User managed, user managed access, the UMA is
Right.
this.
So, what exactly, or what sort of, what's the purpose, or what are they managing their identity for?
They're controlling who can access what. In other words, if someone needs to know you're over 21, they don't need to know your address. They don't need you need your your driver's license number or anything else. They only need to know. They only need a proof that you're 21. Okay, with a user managed permission, you can get an attribution that can be can prove that you're over 21, giving a use case would be where you go into a bar and you show your QR code. The bartender chooses QR code. Then he sees your picture there, and he says, "Is over 21?" He doesn't need to know any more than that. Okay, a user managed identity means that the information is correct, because if you had wrong information, then your identity wouldn't be trusted. It takes a lifetime to build trust and a second to lose it. So it's the best source of information. And the fact that you can say what it can be used for, rather than people using it for purposes that are against your interest.
Yeah, like Facebook or
Right.
Google, essentially using you as the commodity, right? In other words, they take your, you know, we have a tacit agreement with Google that we get all of their stuff for free, but they get to take our identity and use it in all kinds of ways that we have no clue about, right? So that's where the you know, the service provider is managing your identity. And so what we're trying to do here is to create a situation where Google can't take and use all your information without your permission. Okay, that's the management part. That's where you're managing the uses that your identity can be put to use for. Does that make sense?
I think so. So the applications you have in mind are similar to all the things we log into Facebook or Google now to do.
Yeah, but much more robust and you know, something that you control. I mean, you know, when you log into Facebook, they're mining, you know, they're using you and selling you over and over and over again, and that's exposing your identity in an environment that can be exploited. In other words, you know, someone can steal your identity, right? In that environment, because it's out there in this soup with no protections. So, you know, this is a major issue, and especially, I mean, the reason why, you know, we look at this health ID use case, right? The one that we just downloaded, is because the health industry is a, you know, a huge space for the type of identity that we're talking about. In other words, if you can manage your own, you know, your own health records and who has access to them and so on and so forth, we do that within this identity application. Does that make sense?
And, you know, the idea is that rather than, you know, having a separate login for every system, you have one login. And, you know, it may be that you still need a Facebook account to use Facebook, but it's essentially managed by your provider when your Facebook permissions are given. Okay.
Yeah, and I mean, you can use it as a login for everywhere you go. I mean, right?
Yeah.
And that's the OpenID side of it, is that it becomes a universal login.
Well, see, the thing is that everybody has a, you know, what we're developing now is decentralized identities. You know, it's like a web page is HTTP. A decentralized identity is DID:. Okay, so you're going to have an OpenID associated with Facebook and another one associated with Google, and another you'll have another ID on Ethereum. But these are all part of the overall identity that you manage to the extent that you can. I mean, you know, you really can't do much with your Facebook identity, Facebook OpenID, except use it as a credential. Okay, saying yes, I am the same person. Where you can prove I am the same person who has this account on Facebook, but be in control of who gets that proof and who doesn't.
Yeah, so you're not exploited.
Mm-hmm.
And
right?
so what'll happen is your ID will contain a lot more information than you're ever going to share in any one context. You only share either the minimum amount that you need for a particular login or a particular verification, or you can choose to provide more, and you can even have the option to sell your own information to people for research purposes, or sell your attention to advertisers, things like that. So, so your ID will be different in different contexts. And what,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think a phone number is worth $30 these days on the market. So, why should somebody else get that to sell your information when you could be getting it?
Yeah, and imagine this. Imagine that you could have an anonymous identity that it's like the Jim was explaining about you're 21. Well, imagine you go online and you want to buy wine, for instance. Okay, but you don't want that website tracking you and hitting you up with all advertisements and taking your information and selling it to somebody else and so forth. You could come in anonymously, but because all of these identity factors are tied to your anonymous identity, then their system, the merchant system, knows that you're over 21. That's all they need to know to sell you the wine, right? Online. Okay, can you see the advantage of that?
Yeah.
Okay, there's another whole thing which, we want to do, and that is, think about it this way. You want to go out and buy a car, okay? Well, if you've ever gone out to buy a car, and you talk to, 3 or 4 or 5 different dealers, suddenly your inbox is just full of, and like these people won't go away. Okay, now imagine that you could do this anonymously. In other words, say, this is the model I'm looking for, only send me anonymously information on this, right? So now you have an opportunity, because you have this anonymous identity, to actually go out into the marketplace and navigate under your own terms. You see? So, and this is not something that's really readily available today, but it will be. And this is part of what we're building here. Right, Jim?
Yep. Thank you. That was a really good explanation.
Oh, good. All right. I never know. The thing you folks have to realize is Jim and I have known each other since high school. So, sometimes he just ignores me.
I think weren't we in the Wall Boys before high school?
What's that?
Weren't we in the Wall Gang before high school? Or I was.
The Wall Gang?
The Wall Gang.
The Wall Gang?
Never mind.
No, I don't think so. I'm not sure.
I know you hung around with the Wall Gang. Maybe you weren't a regular.
Who else was in there? Huh?
I mean, Jim.
The Campbells?
Yeah.
Oh, that was the Cabin.
I can't. I'm forgetting people's name. I know Mahan was in it, and Bill and Jim Rohr.
Oh, really? Oh, well, I probably was in it then. Okay.
And Bill Sherry. Sherry?
Oh, Bill McSherry?
Right.
McSherry?
Yeah.
Oh, you're kidding me. Yeah, he and I were good pals, but he moved.
Yeah, let's move on.
He moved to Long Island. Okay.
So the first stumbling block I ran across in here was that I went to run this, and immediately I found out that MySQL database needed to be installed, and that wasn't part of the instructions, although it was listed in a set of prerequisites. So I'm going to check out the repository from SVN, and
Jim, do you mean to be sharing your screen? Because you're not.
no,
Okay.
yeah, I'm just saying what I'm doing. I will.
I mean, it's going to be hard for people to understand if they, or don't even know what a MySQL database is or anything.
Right. I guess what I wanted to do was just pipe in every now and then in the discussion and tell people what I was doing, and I will show you something. I will show you when I develop it. I mean, the main thing I'm going to do is I'm going to copy the instructions into the project log, and as I discover steps that need to be done, I'm going to be correcting them in the project log. And then when I have actually get it to work or whatever, then I'll commit the new, copy and paste the new instructions into the readme.md file, the more complete instructions, and commit that to at least our repository and maybe their repository also. So this was just a segue. Next question. Did that answer your question? I should have asked first.
Yeah, I think so. I guess maybe this is kind of silly, but when you say show just your age to the bartender, is that literal? Are there real world uses too, or are we just talking about the internet?
That's a real world case, showing it to the bartender, right? Anytime you have to show a credential, it's usually because they need to know something about you. You're a citizen of the USA or resident of Florida or some simple fact about you. They don't need any more information about you. Okay.
They don't need to know your address or your date of birth or see your driver's license. So you have maximum amount of privacy, but they have verification for the aspects of your ID that they need to know.
Mm-hmm.
And we can, store the proof on the blockchain so that they are safe that they did diligence in making sure that you were over 21. If we want, to store that. But, thing is, the information is sort of in contracts. So who can look at it when is determined by the permissions that you gave.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so it may be that currently they have these know your customer laws. You have to know your customer. Okay, well, suppose they had a method where if the authorities wanted to know if the authorities could use their...
Just a second. He's talking about in banking, what banks need to know in order to set up an account for you generally, or for you to buy some kind of security or something like that.
Well, a lot will depend on how much information is in the wild. And the public blockchains mean that information is now in the wild, so to speak. And you don't have to have an arrangement beforehand in order to access what's on the blockchain. It's all public. So right now, there's not many proofs out there to look at. But for example, in developing countries, they're starting to use blockchains to record ownership and deeds of property. So if the bank wanted to know that you own something, they could just, you could give them a permission to access that authoritative record of who owns that property. And they would know you own the property. I'm trying to think of other information about you that they would want there's a couple of things. You have a claim of certain information, and then there's attestations to that claim. Okay, now the attestations may be, from your bank, or from your town, or from your school, or from whatever. And depending on the situation, they may need different information. The electric company may attest to your address, and that may be fine for the bank. Okay. Does that answer it?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, with Jim talking about the bank, for instance, there are different strengths of identity, right? And you need to have an identity that matches whatever the risk threshold of whatever it is you're accessing. Okay, so here's the simplest way to look at that. If you're accessing a bank account with $100 in it, that's a pretty low risk threshold, because the damage of losing that $100 is not all that great. But if you're accessing a bank account with $1 million in it, that's an entirely different risk threshold. And your identity, the identity that you use to log into that account, has to be strong enough and robust enough to provide the security that that account needs, right? Does that make sense? Now, think about top secret government stuff, okay? Imagine if all of these politicians that got hacked in the last election had a robust identity like the one we're talking about, okay? Now you can start to see what a real world situation is like, where the type of identity we're trying to create here would be incredibly valuable.
Mm-hmm.
Right, Jim?
Yep.
I like it. Jim, learned his vocabulary from Ringo Starr.
It's interesting. I've gotten a couple of compliments in the last week on my writing skills, which sometimes are good, but most of the time nobody has a clue what I'm talking about. But it's interesting that when I was 11 years old, just before I met Kendall, my vocabulary was 11 percentile. I'm dyslexic, and it's only because I've been working by reading and typing the last 50 years that have any I've developed any ability with the English language at all.
Well, but I have to say, you know, Jim was you know, the person that I knew who could put more meaning into the word ah.
And it still drives me nuts.
Well, we had sort of a mental telepathy kind of thing going, you know, because when we used to play this driving game, you know, where one of us would drive and the other person would think about a place, right? And the driver had to go to that place without any instructions. Okay, and we actually got pretty good at it. It was amazing.
So, I'm installing PHP, which is the first dependency they list.
Do you want a screen share on that, Jim?
Sure.
Yeah, because I guess this is really supposed to be. This isn't supposed to be shown. Well, yeah.
We're supposed to get something done, right? So I do an apt install PHP. Okay, and it's going to install all the dependencies. Apparently, Apache and everything else is going to be installed. Which Apache is the web server. PHP is the language that part of this anyway is implemented in. Maybe the whole thing is implemented in PHP. There is OpenID PHP implementation, so we may use those. I haven't really looked at the code yet. I can see the next dependency is MySQL. So I'm going to do an apt install MySQL. Oh, MySQL is that it's not MySQL anymore. MySQL is the name of the company, but I think it'll tell me. Oops. So I can type up arrow and it takes me back to the last command and I can backspace and edit it. I can't use my mouse when I'm in the command window. I can't locate the package. Okay, so now I have to get the correct name of the package. And it's called MiriamDB or something. Okay, so I go to a search window and I type MySQL install Ubuntu. Okay, and yeah, I did mean that. Okay. I'm going to go to DigitalOcean. Usually DigitalOcean has more complex instructions than you need, but they have the really professional way of doing things. So it suggests doing an update, which I probably should have done to begin with. Because, a distribution of a package is generally not updated. And you can see there's a lot of packages that are not up to date. Oh, it's done. That was easy. We can also try an upgrade. It shouldn't need an upgrade. wants to upgrade a couple things, I'll let it. That way, the system is completely up to date, and we know that there's not going to be any problems with it, with the versions of what we got out there. Now this says we have. It says we can. Oh, we have to do MySQL-server. I just said MySQL. Default is yes. I just hit enter. I don't know if it's installed. Well, it's not mandatory. It's highly that you set a password for the MySQL administrative root user. Okay. Root user. And okay, now it wants me to do a secure server installation here. We're just testing. I'm not going to do that. Secure installation usually means a lot more work maintaining system administrating it. MySQL is pretty secure as it is. Secure enough. But like I said, DigitalOcean will give you the really professional way to do it, as opposed to the ordinary user easy way. Sometimes you can do something with one command, and the sort of the professional way to do it is a lot more complicated. Okay, so we let's set that. And curl, we know we have curl already. We used it. The first command we typed was curl, which we could do a apt install of curl. So here we did a curl to get the install.shell. And then we tried to invoke the install.shell, and it came and it asked for the MySQL username, and I quit because we didn't have MySQL installed. And then I did install the PHP. Install my SQL-server. I'll fix this later, but I want to remember that step that we had to do an apt install. And Apache was installed automatically with the PHP, so we can take out that dependency. And we can take out the curl dependency because every system has curl. You can assume that it has curl. and we didn't need to install it. But see, if you go through this a couple times, you see what anybody else might need. Probably nothing else. Okay. Now, we probably want to set, okay, MySQL is a database server. And we probably want to set up a user specifically for that. But for the purposes of testing, we'll just use the root user. The root user is all powerful. We should probably create a database and a user associated with this application if we had other people sharing the same database, which we don't have. So I'll go back up and I can see what I did here. And I'll I'll run the install script again. Again, we're going to do a user-managed authorizations install, not just OpenID. OpenID lets you log in, but doesn't let you manage your permissions. Enter the name of the MySQL database, the HIE of the authorization server we'll use. Okay, the default name is OIDC, which is OpenID. That's fine. Enter MySQL username. We're going to use root. Not a good practice, but fine for testing. And it's going to...
Do you want to explain what the root user is?
What, can you?
Yeah. The root user has full administrative permissions. The root user can do pretty much everything. And so, I mean, if somebody were to hack into a system and get root user control, they could destroy anything or change anything or, yeah.
Okay. Oh, it's going too fast. Missed it. Gave us a nice little message. All I can't find it in history here. This is still installing PHP. I was just trying to find the command I just typed. Okay, here's where I was typing. Okay, downloading Composer version successfully installed. Use it php composer.var. Okay, so, oops, I didn't want to do that, but after we install, one of the things we're going to do is php composer.var. Install composer.var. Do not run Composer as root super user. C, get
Super
composer.org.
user is root. Super user is the same thing as root.
Right. Now, there's actually two roots here. One is the root account for the machine itself, the Linux account, and the other is the root account for the MySQL database server. Okay, well, it failed to download a problem, so and so this was in the setup. We had an issue. And what we do when we have an issue is we copy the issue. In this case, I'm copying the whole issue. I don't know if I want to copy the whole thing or not. But with the PuTTY browser, when you select something, it automatically copies it. It's hard to get used to, but PuTTY is sort of one of the best programs around for it, so you get used to it. Just for the heck of it, I'm going to try the PHP composer.var. It said don't run it as root, though. So I have to set up another account. But essentially what we do is we go back to the repository, okay, and we click on issues, and there's no issues. So we say new issue, title.
Guys, I have to go. It's Saturday, and I have to do some Saturday things.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Okay, I wish you all luck.
Thank you.
We'll see you on one channel or another, huh?
Yeah, see you later.
Hey,
Okay.
Kit.
Bye-bye.
Hey, Kit.
Yeah.
Let's let's exchange an email or two, and try to circle back and have that meeting we were talking about.
Yeah, exactly. That's on my list, actually. I just got back. And
No,
so
I know.
Yep. Don't worry. I haven't forgotten about it.
Go take out the garbage. Do those dishes that you left in the sink when you left, right?
Well, I got to stock up the refrigerator.
Okay.
But
All right. Well, great to meet you, and I'll look forward to that.
So yeah, it was very nice to meet you face to face, and nice to meet Chloe and Matt and Plant Eater for the first time, also in a meeting.
Yep.
Nice to meet you.
Okay.
All right. See you.
Bye.
Okay, see you. Bye-bye.
Okay.
So,
It always pays to look at the errors here, because this says that this problem the problems here all deal with a requirement for X curl, and we didn't see in the instructions any requirement to install Git X curl. We saw it said curl. It didn't say X curl. So we can do an apt install X curl. X curl. I don't know how to install X curl. And I see that a lot of people have this problem. 82 people anyway. 135 people thought this answer was useful. I mean, we could try this. PHP was, we installed PHP, we didn't install PHP 5. Maybe we installed the wrong PHP. Nope, it's done. PHP 7.0.curl we need. Yep, we don't have that. So that's installed. And we can go back to our document and I did. I'll just stick it. Should stick these up on top. And uh-oh. There's two different Perls here, two different PHPs here. So I type PHP -- version usually works. Okay, so it's saying 7.0. What's this?
Jim, this might be a good stopping point to pick up on again next time. I think Chloe and Matt might be at the saturation point at this point.
Yeah, I think we're 7 minutes over the hour. Sorry about that. Any final comments? Whatever.
I don't think so.
I think we'll come up with more questions as we learn. You know, right now we're just processing it, and I think we learned a lot today, and we came off with a good start.
All right.
Yeah.
I would say that we probably should get together in a smaller group. If assuming that you want to work on this project.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, there's a lot of different tasks that we need to do. This one is, I guess, fairly important at this time, and it requires a fair amount of learning for anybody who's going to be involved in it.
Yeah. Well, and I would just say, this is a great opportunity to work directly with someone who was there at the beginning of the internet and well before that. You know,
Yeah. You know, I mean, what works well sometimes is if we're just on the Zoom while we're working, so that at any point you can show a screen or ask a question, and then if if you're looking something up or trying to find something out, you can we don't have to I can work on several things. We can work on more than one thing at a time here. And
yeah, I mean, you can assign tasks and everybody can be in the same space working together and pipe up, ask a question. Okay, let's go over here and work on that together. Blah 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 blah.
What we really want to do is we want to divide the labor, but we want to do so in a way where we still can help each other or are still helping each other. And a lot of times it's, you guys are in Mattermost. Did you join Mattermost?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, good.
Okay, so
we going to make a health ID channel?
we could. I mean, right now the identity channel can be used for everything. Okay, once we have more than one activity going on, then we would want to split it into other channels or different activities. Yeah, for now, the identity channel is the place to work. Now, you see, I'm dealing with a number of different identity channels. There's the identity channel in our chain. There's the identity channel in DigLife. There's the sovereign agent working group, which is in Rocket Chat. I wish they were in Mattermost. It's so easy to manage communities in Mattermost. I suggest loading the apps for your phones and for Windows rather than use the browser. I don't know if
You mean loading them directly into Mattermost, into a...
Well, we're developing a whole task support system in Mattermost, which is another reason. It will be much more useful than it is. But if you look, you can see that I have all my teams in Divi here. You probably only don't see teams. Like in DigLife, there's all these different teams. Each team has channels. I see immediately that I have some mentions in Digital Life. This is the platform cooperative. Now, I didn't want to log in. Divi DAO, Cloudtron.io, DexStack, and the Art Chain. But this is very convenient to have this up. To use the native app for Windows as opposed to using the browser. Which I guess if you're only in one activity, you probably don't need it. But
hey Jim, how come I don't have a identity channel on mine? Let me show you real quick.
I probably didn't add you. You have to hit more at the bottom.
Oh, okay. Let me, I'm sharing now. So do I just add myself to this list or?
Yeah. Huh?
Well, let me share so you can see what's going on here. You're sharing, Jim. Oh no, you're not. Oh, sorry. I thought I was. Okay, hang on. Whoops. Wait a minute.
I mean, you know, when you hit more, it shows you what channels you're not in.
Well, that's not really so. Let me show you. Okay. All right, so this more or this more?
Well, you hit more at the bottom if you want people, if you want individuals. If you want channels, you hit more there. Okay.
Oh, search channels. I see. Okay, identity.
Right. You just click on join. Don't
Oh.
search. You may want to join the work study too.
Well, okay, so more, and then just click join.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I see it. It says work study. Ah,
Chloe, if you have Mattermost open right now, you might want to join those channels too.
Okay.
uh-huh. Okay, got it.
Okay, and
Okay.
so you know, you can put questions. We can work asynchronously, and uh, you know, a lot of times it's very convenient, just like we did here, just to see the screen. And I can even take remote control. It's, you know, rather than telling you what to type, you know, you can give me remote control, and I can you know, do something if something needs to be done that's beyond your skills.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Obviously, we want you to do it yourself, and that's, you know, and part of it is watching me do it, monkey see, monkey do, and part of it is, you know, doing it. It you know, you may not get it all right away, but by the second or third time, you know, it clicks and it becomes a habit.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else?
No, I think we're good for today.
Yeah.
Right. Take care.
Kind of a lot to, you know, let me just say this. You know, I mean, we're excited about having you guys on board. You know, there's a lot to absorb.
Yeah.
You know, so don't feel, you know, I mean, you just have to get immersed in this stuff. But
you know,
this is cutting edge. Jim, you know, Jim is, you know, has been basically in the vanguard of this of cyberspace for many, many, many years. And
but
you know,
what we're doing here is very basic, and we're all learning. And the thing is that, you know, biting the bullet, you know, wanting to learn is really the only requirement, because you know, we can you know, we can get the stuff done. I mean, you know, I still have students who come back to me every now and then with a problem, which they should be able to solve. You know, I help them or whatever. But eventually, I will. Not sure what my point. If I can get to my point here, my point is that for no matter what we do in this world today, everything is changing, and we have to learn new stuff, and that's painful. There's pain. We don't want to change. We don't want to learn. So the fact that you guys are interested, you want to learn, is very important.
Yeah.
this is what you know, we call the human project, and that's what Divi is all about. Is about creating the tools to make working on the human project easier for everyone.
Yeah.
Interoperable humans.
Yep.
Any final words, Plane Eater? Was she busy? So mute.
No, sorry, I had trouble unmuting myself. No, thank you, just everybody for being here. Chloe and Matt for showing up and diving into this. And it's so much. And Jim and Kendall, I think you both gave some good and complimentary information and explanation. So I'm excited to see everyone involved in this.
And are you going to learn some command line, some of this too, Plain Eater?
Yeah, I am. I do know how to use the command line.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to it, Jim.
Yeah. I mean, you'll develop some skills, and we'll get something done, and we can all learn a little crypto.
Yep.
Which reminds me, for participating, there's a 10 divvy practice involved, so that you earn 10 divvy for participating.
Well, you mean, Jim? You mean for right now, or
yeah?
On?
But that's an hour of participation. We're paying 10 divvy right now, and we're paying 50 for coaching. And if we deliver something, so there's an opportunity to exchange that for something more fungible than divvy, if you want.
Yeah, and we have a ledger system where we're awarding those tokens, but the projects, this project has awarded to it a block of tokens, and they get assigned to different tasks within the project.
There's actually two projects. Divvy U has a budget of divvy, and so does Bring Your Own ID. So,
yeah. And we're working to get some rocks into it, and maybe some amps.
Right. Yeah.
Which are both convertible currencies at this time. So, yeah. This is not a freebie.
Right.
We're all doing it because we expect to make money, and at this early stage, I mean, if past history of other cryptocurrencies is any of value, then the early tokens are. The early tokens become a lot more valuable over time. Let's put it that way. So,
yeah.
All right.
Okay, well, thank you guys very much. Yeah, we really appreciate the time you took to explain everything to us, even though right now, as we said, we don't know very much. And yeah, as we learn, we'll, think of more questions to ask. And yeah.
And we're experimenting with the process too, and we're trying to figure out how we can get people interested. And you're sort of like guinea pigs. If you never come back, then we know we made a big mistake. We're hoping to get lots of people working, and earn while you learn, and accomplish something worthwhile.
Mm-hmm.
There you go.
Later, guys.
Okay. All right. Thanks everyone.
Everybody. And I'm sure we're going to see Chloe and Matt again.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
you did a great job,
Matt,
Jim.
great to meet you, Chloe.
Nice